Street Biashara, proudly brought to you by Equity.
Welcome to Street Biashara, where we test your general knowledge on business and financial terms. My name is Brenda Nyamichaba. Now, according to CEIC data 2018, Kenya's commercial banks' liquid assets were reported at 1,884,343 Kenyan shillings in June 2019. Now, this records an increase from the previous number of 1,807,436 Kenyan shillings for May 2019. This comes even as the banks operate within a highly regulated environment under the cap on interest rates. But the question we're looking at today is whether you understand or know what a liquid asset is. Well, let's find out the answers we have in store.
Liquid assets. Maybe anything that could be converted into cash. Maybe if you have, say, property.
Liquid asset. Asset.
Yes, asset.
Sina idea, sijui.
The term liquid asset means something that's not physical. You are owning something, let's say a business or something, but it's not physical. It's a liquid asset.
Asset, okay. Liquid ni kitu, ni maji, kitu kama maji, kitu liquid liquid asset, siwezi combine.
Nimesikia lakini nimesahau.
I think it's an asset, like tangible things that you can easily change into money quickly.
Jaribu kuniambia kitu unafikiria maanisha. Kama unajua asset, ukiweka liquid kwa hiyo jina unafikiria those two put together, what do they mean?
I've forgotten.
I've heard of it because I did business in high school, but that's like where I had it last. I think it means there are assets that can be transferred or transformed into cash really quick.
Now that we know what you understand by the term liquid asset, it's time for us to get a clear explanation from an expert. And the one and only person joining us on Street Biashara today is Mr. Ambrose Bomari, who's an economic analyst. Thank you once again for joining me on Street Biashara. I just want us to jump right into breaking down for us what is a liquid asset.
Yeah, you know, liquids.
Yeah.
When you talk about liquid, what comes to your mind is water or something that flows very easily. So a liquid asset is simply cash or any other asset that can be converted into cash without its value being impacted significantly. So if you had cash today in your e-money wallet or in the bank account or in your pocket, that is liquid cash. If you had something like T-bills or any other thing that you can quickly convert into cash, that is called a liquid asset.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what do you think has contributed to the good performance of commercial banks under the cap on interest rates?
You know, banks, I've said this so many times, that the interest cap was just a conspiracy between the executive and the legislation arm of governments to conspire so that government would borrow money cheaply. Remember before, interest rates were at 20, 21, all the way to 30%.
Yes, yes.
And so when government would come to borrow this money on the domestic market, the cost of money was very high. So by capping this, it was just a conspiracy so that government would borrow money cheaply from the domestic market. So you see, now banks have simply shifted money and started buying government paper, the T-bills, in droves. So you see, treasury bills, if you lend to the government, it is risk-free. The government will never default,
Yes.
The guarantees are the returns are guaranteed, and so banks, their performance has largely remained the same. They have been very profitable.
Okay, yeah.
Because now they are not forced to lend so much to the SME sector, to the private sector, which has a lot of risk. Because you see, businesses, for whatever reason, could go under. At times we experience economic hard times and things like that. If you borrow to the government, you are sure 100% that this is the rate of return I'm going to get in X number of or within a definite period of time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, lastly, the government plans to limit its borrowing to just the commercial banks. Should we expect a higher figure from the commercial banks if the law is passed?
You see, this is a disaster in waiting, because now if you limit the government just to borrow from commercial banks, and the situation is already bad, actually the reverse should happen. The government should be kicked out of domestic borrowing. And I think the Eurobonds, Eurobond 1, 2, and even the ones that are coming, were meant to cure this problem, that governments would go out, borrow money from the international financial market, and leave the domestic market to the private sector. But the reverse has happened. Now, I don't know if this law is going to limit government now to borrow from only commercial banks. Where will the private sector access their credit from? So this is a disaster. And I've always been wondering who advises government on such policies. This should be reversed so that the private sector should access a bit of credit and thrive.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you once again, Mr. Ambrose Omari, for that. Well, there you have it, a clear explanation of what a liquid asset is. Now, I hope when I come back on the streets to ask you what exactly a liquid asset is, you'll have the right answer. For now, it's a goodbye. See you in the next episode of Street Biashara.
Street Biashara, proudly brought to you by Equity.